Hey, it's Bradford. We're back with another WoW TCG deck tech. This is going to be another raid deck. So this here is a support priest. It's a Horde one. Alliance ones are going to be pretty different because we have a lot of Horde allies in this deck. So I like to make my decks... This one's been refined over time and I just kind of figured out some cards that are really strong in it. This deck can do the job of healing the whole raid, but it also has a lot of proactive cards, so you're not just sitting there waiting for people to take damage. A lot of people make healing decks and your whole job is to heal, and that's fine, but at some point, you're just sitting and waiting for people to take damage because you've already done your job, so you just kind of sit there building up a hand. So we've got a number of ways to circumvent that in this deck. We also have other ways we provide support in the deck, like helping other players draw cards, which is pretty significant. Let's get to it. So the first category we have is support. Let's go through it. We have United Front. This one costs 1. Instant. Target a friendly hero or ally. The next time they take damage, prevent it. Oh, I'm sorry, it's target a friendly hero and a friendly ally. It's really great for 1 mana. You can probably prevent more damage than you would have been able to heal for 1 mana. And oftentimes it's not about like preventing so much damage to someone's hero as it is about preventing a trade on an early ally or a key ally. Getting any damage prevented on a hero is really just kind of icing on the cake, basically. I used to run like 3 or 4 of these in some other decks, but I'm kind of down to 1 now. That's fine. I have Heal as a 2 of. It's one of the worst cards in the deck for sure, but sometimes your mana's really tight and you just need to cast multiple cards per turn. Like you need to develop something for the next turn and you need to be able to heal. So that's why this is in the deck. It's often a resource because there's just other heals that do the job better. But that is your job, so sometimes if you just need to heal, like there it is. It's literally the card Heal. Power Word Absorb. This is a 3-drop instant. The next time damage will be dealt to a hero or ally this turn, prevent it and draw a card. So similar to United Front, except it only has 1 target, except it costs a lot more, and you get to draw a card from it. Drawing a card makes it so significantly better, but costing 3 mana makes it worse. So that's why we have 1 of each, and you can just change it up if you like, and figure out what's better for you. 2 Grim Campfires. Hey, we are the healer, so if we can get this down and established early, whenever an opposing ally is destroyed, add a counter to this thing, and at the end of your turn, you heal 1 from each friendly hero and ally for every fuel counter. Some raids, this thing will like tick all the way up to 15, so you won't even need to heal anymore. This thing will heal the entire raid on its own until it gets destroyed. But it's a 2 of, so maybe we can get it in play and get something going. Even just healing for 3 or 4 every turn is pretty strong. Other times it's too late in the game and it's just a resource you don't need. Got it. Circle of Healing. Quality's not so great with this scan, but that's okay. This is a 3-drop instant heal everyone friendly or all friendly heroes and allies for 10. So you can use this just to heal allies if you need. I've done that before, but primarily it's like a 3 mana heal everyone for 10 seems stupidly good. So it's hard for other healing classes to compete. Like even Paladin's the one we all think of because it has all the draw in it, but this deck will make you rethink that. Circle of Healing. Heal your whole team for 10. You got it. It's one of the best cards in the deck. Shelter the Flock, almost the same, except it costs 1 more. Pay 4, you heal 11 from each friendly hero, so you don't heal allies. This is basically 2 more copies of this. You have 6 super mega heals that are AoE. Greater Heal costs 4 and heal someone for 14. So you're wondering, why not just have 2 more Shelter the Flocks? There's a lot of cases in the raids where the other guy, like the raid boss person, the player, he'll start to just focus someone down because he'll see, like, okay, that dude just healed the whole team for 10, so I can't spread damage, I'll have to focus. When he starts to focus, you really need the extra 2 or 3 that this would heal, where you heal 14 instead of 10. And there's many times when everyone will be full except one guy who has like 20 damage on him, so being able to greater heal that guy up instead of just healing for 10 could make a significant difference. That's really it for the heals. I know it seems like there's not enough in there, but that gives us 8 big mega heals, 2 potential repeatable heals, and then 2 preventing bubbles, that we like to call those bubbles. 2 bubbles that can be really helpful in the key moments, and then 2 more heals that aren't great, but they're easy to slot in. Threats. That's right. Our support priest has a lot of threats in it, and they make a lot of sense when you start reading the cards. Seeking the Manifested Pain. At the start of our turn, we're going to put a 2/2 Tauren priest into play, but we take 2 damage. So at the cost of damaging ourselves, we can get a 2/2 into play. So that'll make us, first off, we get to have a little more fun, right? We get to do some attacking. We get to be proactive and do things. It's only a 2 of, which means we shouldn't have to draw too many and resource it all the time. You don't have to play it if you're doing your healing thing, but sometimes you just want to make some threats. And it's got a lot of synergy with the rest of the deck. Like this guy. He's a 3-drop 2/4 with Tribe. Here's a cool mechanic. When this or another Tauren enters play under your control, this ally heals 2 from target hero or ally. So this is already a combo. If we have this in play on turn 2, and we put this guy in play on turn 3, every time one of these tokens comes into play, we can just use his trigger to take 2 damage back off our hero and not even take anything. So we basically just have infinite free tokens until they kill this guy. There's more Taurens in the deck, though, so this guy gets some other triggers. You can also use these 2 damage, I'll call them heal pings, basically. You can just use these to heal your allies up, your teammates up. So even if you're taking like 6, maybe 8 from this eventually, you're going to heal all that up when you cast one of these spells. And you can just use this guy to keep ping healing your teammates up. You also get a little 2/4 in play. It survives a lot of attacks. You can use it to clear off guys, and then when a token comes back into play, you can use that damage to heal this ally. So there's already a lot of synergy, and I've only shown you 2 cards. Kahul the Sunseer. This guy's neat. He's a 4-drop 3/4 with Tribe. Whenever a Tauren enters play, this guy heals damage from your hero and deals unpreventable holy damage to the other hero. It's all based on the ally's health. So when he comes into play, you heal 4 from yourself, shoot the other hero for 4. That's already pretty swingy. But this now also happens with every token and every creature that's a Tauren dude. So more awesome tribal support. This guy's also just a great threat. I mean, he heals ourselves. He does nothing to heal our allies. But this is one of the reasons why we want to use these little triggers to try and heal our allies rather than ourselves, because we have some self-healing from him. Xarantaur. This is one of the best raid cards I've ever seen. A 5-mana XX. Well, he's a 0/0, but he has +1/1 for each card in all players' hands. So, honestly, I spawn a counter when I put him into play because he's usually somewhere between a 12/12 and like a 25/25. So, 25/25 for 5 mana is pretty good, but that's not it. He's also a Tauren Druid, and he also has, at the start of each player's turn, that player draws a card. So now, every one of your allies gets to draw 2 cards per turn. The raid boss will draw 2 cards a turn, but that really won't matter. So you're sitting in play with a 5 mana, let's say he's a 20/20. I'll buy that. 5 mana 20/20, who lets everyone draw 2 cards a turn. It's already one of the most insane cards in a raid I've ever seen. But it also combos with this. So if the raid boss has like 20 health, and this says whenever a Tauren Ally comes into play, it shoots the other hero for a bunch of health, you play this guy, and you're like, okay, play a 5/5, or no, you play a 5-drop 20/20, and you shoot the other hero for 20. Like, that's nuts. A 5-mana 20/20 that shoots for 20 and then draws a card for every player in the game. So he's often going to be... He'll probably draw like 8 cards for all the players by the time he gets killed. He's just crazy good. Dude's crazy. You could probably run him as a 4-of, but we find him often enough with a 3-of, and we have some quests that can recur him later on, so it's fine. 4 Legacy of the Horde. This thing's pretty nuts. There's an ongoing, if a friendly hero or ally would deal damage, it deals double that much instead. If a friendly hero or ally would be dealt damage, prevent half that damage, rounded up. So this ongoing ability doubles all damage our raid deals for the rest of the game, and prevents half that damage, and it rounds up, not down. So it turns a 3 damage attack into a 1 damage attack. So this makes healing way easier for the rest of the game, because our guys don't really take much damage. It also means most of our creatures really won't even get traded into by other allies or removal spells. Or all of our allies can now trade up, because they deal double damage. Like, just it does so much for the raid. You'll start one-hitting every boss, no matter if you have allies or weapons or ongoing ability-based damages. It does so much for the raid. And then all your triggers, like this guy comes into play. Instead of shooting for 4, it'll shoot for 8. It's pretty crazy good. Best card in the deck by far. Try not to resource it. Try to always keep a copy in your hand. You don't need to play 2 of these. Playing 1 should pretty much win you the raid. And if you just keep the second one in your hand, if the boss ever destroys it, then it's going to be hard for the boss to ever recover. Xarantaur plus Legacy of the Horde is one of the best combos I've ever seen in a raid. Because that means this guy is like a, still a 5-mana 20/20, and he hits for 40. And if they do damage to him, it doesn't even do anything. It's just incredible. So this is definitely the strongest 2 cards in the deck. So Legacy of the Horde. You see that little question mark on the guy on the left, the purple? The question mark is kind of what I think of. Like, if I'm the raid boss, it's like, what do I do? Not much. This guy, never really seen him very much, but he's great in this deck. He's a 6-drop 3/6, a Tauren Druid. He's got Mend 3, so start of your turn, he can keep continuing to heal people up. Those little pip heals matter a lot, little Mend here and there. Whenever he heals damage, you can draw a card. So it's everything you want in a support deck. He lets us draw more. He's huge and hard to kill. He can eat other allies, like if you have to trade into some 3/3s. he can just eat those guys up and then heal himself up. Whenever he does heal, you get to draw more. I mean, the only drawback is he costs 6 and does nothing when he comes into play. So, pretty big drawback, but this deck is certainly wanting to go late, and it's healing your team-ups and drawing enough cards that you can go late. So, he's a pretty cool little 2-of. Try him out. Also, his pose is very much like, yeah, woohoo, look at me, I'm a druid. Alright, going to utility. Taste of Divinity, I've got one of these in the deck. You could tweak this number a little bit. It's pay 1, you deal 2 unpreventable holy damage to target ally. If it didn't kill the ally, it goes back into your hand. So this is just pay 1, deal 2 to an ally until it's dead. Or if you're really smart with it, you can just plan out with your team and pay 1 and shoot a guy for 2, bring it back, shoot a guy for 2, bring it back, shoot another guy for 2, bring it back, and then leave all those guys to where they're almost dead, and then use your tokens that were made, or use your creatures, or let your other teammates, let them kill those dudes. That way you can keep the Taste of Divinity in your hand and keep killing allies no matter how big they are. And it's unpreventable, so this thing's just a really strong removal spell. Again, easily tweakable. We have some in the sideboard too. Faithful Dispel. Destroy target ability, draw a card. It's not instant, so you can't really have any tricks with it, but it's a 4-of that we get to. There's always good ongoing abilities, and being the support deck, sometimes you want to be able to provide that role that your team needs. It's also a 2-for-1. It's a great card. Morik. You've seen him by now, I know. 3-drop, 2/2 orc. He's got ferocity. When he attacks, everyone draws a card. Let's see a raid boss draw a card as well, but still, the fact that this draws you so many cards and Xarantaur gets to draw your team a bunch of cards means this deck is going to keep everyone healed and everyone drawing a bunch of cards, and then eventually everyone doing a bunch of damage. It's just not very fair. He's not a Tauren, so he doesn't really fit with the whole Tauren sub-theme, but he's just so good that it doesn't matter. Zalan Ragewind, he's a 1-of in the deck. He's a 4-drop, 3/4 protector. He's also a Tauren. And when he enters play, or I'm sorry, he's a protector. When your opponent's hero readies, you can pay 1 and destroy an ability or an opponent they control. So he's another good way to get rid of ongoing abilities, or a way to get rid of equipment, which a lot of these decks don't have any of. So at least we have one way to do that. He's also a fat Tauren protector, so sometimes you just need a 4-health dude that helps protect. So if they have like a big giant haste dude. He also does damage when he comes into play because of Kahul if he's there, and he does a lot with 4 health, so that's another significant thing. Tatulla the Reclaimer, another Tauren druid, 4-drop 3/3. When this creature enters play, the target player destroys an ability or an equipment they control. So you target the raid boss with this, and then they get to choose what they destroy. But if you're able to clear everything, like use Faithful Dispel and clear all their abilities, and all they have left is like one piece of significant equipment, then this little tiger can just clear out their ability and make them target it. It's also an easy way to try to get around untargetable ongoings if that's ever a thing in a raid. I mean, it's also a Tauren, so it triggers all of our Tauren stuff. Netherbreath Spellblade, it's fine as a 1-of. The abilities in this deck aren't devastatingly good, except for this one. But what this is you can play this, and then for the rest of the game, if you have nothing else to grab, you can grab this card and just keep casting it to draw another card anyways. Prevent damage, draw a card over and over again. Or you can grab your Legacy of the Hordes back out of the graveyard every turn. That's really hard to deal with. Or you can just keep casting a giant heal every turn. So it's slow and clunky, but in this deck, it lets you do your job. If you want your job to be making everyone huge, or preventing damage, or one of the many heals, or killing ongoing abilities, or getting a removal spell, this thing can do a lot. And as a 1-of, it's fine to draw it and make your decision then. 2, Renewal of Life. This is a neat equipment. Pay 4. At the start of your turn, you may destroy this item. If you do, each player puts all allies from his graveyard into play. Kind of nuts, isn't it? You could play this on turn like 15, and then you get everything back into play. And in fact, if you actually did that, you'd probably get at least 1 Kahul or maybe 2 in play, and then all your Tauren would trigger their effects twice and just like bolt your opponent, like bolt them for 4+4, and then this one says 4+4. You do so much damage that it would be nuts. You just kill your opponent. Even if you don't kill your opponent, you and all your friendly players get all their allies back too. Yeah, it's not very fun. However, this does work with the raid deck as well, so the raid would get all of its guys back, so that can be really bad. It's a 2-of, that way if you draw one and it's terrible, you can just resource it and you might be able to grab the other one later on. Really interesting card, and there's some neat potential for making some PvP decks there if you want to try reanimation. Next up, resources. This card's hard to read, but basically whenever an opposing ally is destroyed, put a counter, and then remove all. Once you have at least 3 counters, you can pay 3 to draw the card, to complete this and draw a card. Actually, it's draw 3. So it's a pay 3, draw 3. Really powerful effect. Pay 1, draw 1, pretty much any time. Pay 4, draw 2. Sometimes you just want something reliable. Some raid bosses have no allies, so this is not always ideal. 2 Forces of Jaedenar. You can kind of slot this and fit this in between stuff. Just pay 1, draw 1. Ichor of Undeath. This is going to sit in your resource row and just probably never do anything half the time. But sometimes you'll get back a really significant ally, like a Xarantaur, or maybe a Morik that you can quest and then cast him and draw some more cards from him in the same turn. So that's like, this is like a 5 mana play and cast Morik in the same turn just to draw a card anyways. Solid play. And 2 Arathi Basin is going to help us draw some cards. Looking at our sideboard, 2 more Shelter the Flocks in case you need lots of heals. So maybe it's a really damaging boss, lots of AoEs. 2 more Greater Heals. We talked about Greater earlier. Here's some extra copies in case. This is kind of the sideboard that I wanted to talk about. Like, why do you even have a sideboard with a raid? This is a good example. We have a lot of dudes in our raid, but maybe we're playing with a whole bunch of people who all have allies and creatures, and we want to let them be the star for a while. We can bring in even more heals, and this is one way to do that. Lightwell. This is a weird 2 of. Ongoing. Friendly heroes and allies have tap. They heal 2 from themselves. So it's kind of slow, and it doesn't work because it doesn't really work with like allies because they need to really spend their time attacking, not tapping to heal themselves. It works for heroes though, especially if there's dots on them, because then they can just start to heal themselves up from Lightwell. And if it never gets destroyed, you can find that this card can easily heal your team for something like 20 over the course of the game if it just stays in play for that long. 2 more Taste of Divinities in case there's lots of allies. You never know with each raid. 2 more Zalan Ragewind. He's really just basically a destroy equipment man. Tatulla does sort of the same thing, but she doesn't get to target it, and I feel like if you're against a deck with a bunch of equipment, you need to be able to specifically target it. It also helps having a protector, because this deck doesn't really have very many protectors, and protectors can be really significant. 1 Divine Fury, and this is more just so you can make copies of it if you want. Make some copies, put them in the main deck, tweak it out a little bit. This is there in case you have to have burn damage. Some decks you need to have burn, like the allies might be elusive or this or that, so having some burn damage is really significant. Some burn damage in addition to this guy, which already does burn for us. So this is the this is the support priest. There's also another version I have that has more allies that Jiraxis Jord kind of made, and we went through and had some fun making that. But this deck is less focused on allies, if you believe it. It's got a bunch of allies still, but it's got a lot of proactive plays and a few reactive plays, mostly just healing all the way back to full, redundancies of several cards, and then some ridiculous bombs like Xarantaur, Legacy of the Horde, Renewal of Life. So many bombs that the opposing raid player is going to have a hard time figuring that stuff out. Also, our flip is pay 3, and then we have mend 1. So at some point we will flip this. I mean, that's how raids go. They go really long. So these heroes that have an effect that lasts every turn, you really see some value out of that. Even if it's pay 3, mend 1, which is like super slow, but it's good enough that you're at least going to get some heal triggers out of it. That's support priest. So let me hear if you have any stories of casting Legacy of the Horde and doing some crazy nutty things. Or if you've ever played Xarantaur with Cahul the Sunseer out and actually done about 40 damage to a boss in one hit. Because I've been there. It was really fun. Well, let me know if you guys try the deck out. It's super fun. Bye.